20 minutes ago, Isabella Morgan had been just another customer at the neighborhood grocery store, carefully maintaining the ordinary identity she had cultivated for the past 2 years. Then 4-year-old twins had recognized her voice from a television interview and loudly announced to the entire produce section that the lady who owns all the stores was buying apples just like everyone else. Now Isabella sat nervously in Sunrise Cafe, waiting for the girl's father to arrive for what might be the most important conversation of her carefully hidden life. At 28, she was worth $3 billion as the founder and CEO of Morgan Retail Enterprises, but she had spent the last 2 years living quietly in a small apartment under an assumed name, desperate to experience life as someone other than America's youngest female billionaire. The twins' excited recognition had shattered her anonymity in seconds. "Daddy, that is her." Isabella heard a familiar voice call out as the cafe door opened. "That is the store lady." Isabella looked up to see a man in his early 30s approaching with the 2 blonde girls who had inadvertently exposed her secret identity. He was handsome in an understated way, wearing a simple white dress shirt that suggested middle-class respectability rather than wealth. His expression mixed confusion, curiosity, and what looked like protective concern for his daughters. "You must be Mark Peterson," Isabella said, standing to greet them. "I am Isabella, and I believe we need to talk." "Girls, why do you not sit here and color while Miss Isabella and I discuss grown-up things?" Mark said, settling his daughters into the booth. The twins immediately began chattering about their encounter with the famous store lady while pulling out crayons. "I owe you an explanation," Isabella began once Mark was seated across from her. "What your daughters said at the grocery store was accurate. I do own Morgan Retail Enterprises." Mark stared at her for a moment. "You own the chain that has over 3,000 stores across the country." "I do," Isabella confirmed. "But for the past 2 years, I have been living here under the name Isabella Clarke, working as a freelance graphic designer, trying to experience life as a regular person." "Why?" Mark asked, clearly struggling to process this information. Isabella looked at his daughters, who were contentedly coloring and occasionally glancing up at her with the kind of innocent curiosity that she had learned to treasure during her time living anonymously. "Because when you are worth billions of dollars, every relationship becomes transactional," Isabella said quietly. "Every friend might be interested in your money. Every romantic interest could be motivated by your wealth. I wanted to discover who I was when nobody knew what I had." "And my daughters recognized you how?" Mark asked. "I did a television interview about women in business last month," Isabella explained. "Apparently, they have very good memories for faces and voices." Mark was quiet for a moment, then looked directly at Isabella with an expression of concern that surprised her. "Are you worried that we are going to sell your story to the press?" he asked. "Because I can assure you that my daughters and I have no interest in exploiting anyone." Isabella felt something loosen in her chest. Her first instinct had been to offer the Peterson family money to ensure their silence, but Mark's immediate assumption that she was worried about exploitation rather than extortion told her something important about his character. "I was not worried about that," Isabella said honestly. "I was more concerned about having to give up the life I have built here. This is the first place I have ever felt like a regular person." "What is it like?" Mark asked with genuine curiosity. "Having that much money, I mean." "Lonely," Isabella replied without hesitation. "Complicated. Every decision has enormous consequences. Every relationship has ulterior motives. I have not had a genuine conversation with someone who did not know about my wealth in over 5 years." "Until now," Mark suggested. "Until now," Isabella confirmed with a small smile. As they talked, Isabella found herself drawn to Mark's straightforward manner and his obvious devotion to his daughters. He asked thoughtful questions about her experience as a business leader, but he also seemed genuinely interested in her perspective as a person trying to find authentic connections. "What do you do for work?" Isabella asked, realizing she knew nothing about him beyond his role as a protective father. "I teach elementary school," Mark replied. "3rd grade. It does not pay much, but I love working with children, and the schedule allows me to be present for Grace and Lily." "Their mother?" Isabella asked gently. "She passed away when the girls were 2, Mark said quietly. "Cancer. It has been just the 3 of us since then." Isabella felt her heart constrict. Here was a man who had faced genuine loss and hardship, who was raising 2 children on a teacher's salary while she worried about the complications of having too much money. "I am sorry for your loss," Isabella said sincerely. "You are clearly doing an amazing job with them." "They are good kids," Mark replied with the pride that comes from deep love, though they apparently have a talent for recognizing billionaires in grocery stores. Over the following weeks, Isabella found herself spending more time with the Peterson family. She helped Grace and Lily with art projects using her graphic design skills, attended Lily's dance recital as their friend Miss Isabella, and discovered the simple pleasure of sharing pizza dinners with people who valued her presence rather than her portfolio. "Miss Isabella," Grace said one evening as they built a blanket fort in Mark's modest living room, "why do you live in the little apartment instead of a big house?" "Because the little apartment is where I met you and your daddy," Isabella replied honestly. "And that makes it worth more to me than any big house. Do you want to live in our house instead?" Lily asked with the generous logic of childhood. Isabella looked at Mark, who was watching this exchange with an expression of warmth and something that might have been hope. "I would love that," Isabella said carefully, "but that would be a very big decision for your daddy to make." "Daddy makes good decisions," Grace said confidently. "He decided to be our daddy even when Mommy got sick." That night, after the girls were asleep, Mark and Isabella sat on his small porch discussing the impossible situation they found themselves in. "Isabella, I need you to know that my feelings for you have nothing to do with your wealth," Mark said seriously. "I fell for the woman who colors with my daughters and helps them build blanket forts. And I fell for a man who chose love over ease, who builds his life around what matters most," Isabella replied. "Mark, I want to tell you something. These past few months with you and the girls have been the happiest of my life. Even though we live in a world completely different from yours." Mark asked. "Especially because of that," Isabella said. "You have shown me what real wealth looks like. It is not money in a bank account. It is having people who love you for who you are, not what you can provide." 6 months later, as Isabella stood in Mark's backyard watching Grace and Lily play on the swing set she had quietly installed as an early Christmas present, she reflected on how accidentally being recognized had led to the most authentic relationship of her life. She had not given up her business empire, but she had learned to use her wealth differently, establishing scholarship funds for teachers like Mark, creating educational programs for children like Grace and Lily, and building the kind of life that honored both her success and her values. "Any regrets about being discovered by a couple of 4-year-olds?" Mark asked, joining her on the back porch. "None," Isabella replied, watching their daughters race to show them a butterfly they had found. Sometimes the best secrets are the ones that get accidentally shared with exactly the right people. As Mark took her hand and they walked toward their children, Isabella realized that true anonymity was not about hiding who you were, but about finding people who loved who you were regardless of what you had accomplished or accumulated.